And then.
Is this me?
You're there, Titas, where you always sit.
I'm gonna sit. Thank you for being here. How are you?
All right. Well, then him, I got to go baby for the
Stop it. I did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stop it, Jane. Jane in the morning.
Oh.
I didn't see her. It was a good Siri.
Oh, was that what it is?
Yeah. I would Siri.
Don't know what to say.
Next. Ay, no. Me pusieron acá.
My calling home for both the children's.
Deme. Okay. Mira, thank you.
Yeah, she's coming close.
How exciting. That's so nice.
Great.
Mhm. We don't have an attorney, by the way.
You're sitting on. You were sitting there.
Oh,
Memo.
but memo's not, it's supposed to be resting.
Oh. The memo was sitting there.
Very Jackson.
Yes, sir.
I had a text memo between these two.
She said it has to be resting. My understanding is that Mr. Muir was supposed to be here.
I'm sorry?
My understanding is that Mr. Muir was supposed to be here today. But he's not here.
What you got?
I just texted him. Oh, there he is. Okay. Right.
Come on, Dad.
Recording in progress.
What does that mean? Why did they put me so far away? And my knees. They told me to sit. Whenever you are, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Today is Tuesday, June the 25th, 2024. It is approximately 5:33 p.m. And I call to order the Finance and Audit Committee meeting. Agenda item number 2, roll call. Jorge Delgado, present. Esteban Rangel, absent. Karina Elizondo, absent. Tita Vela.
Here.
All right. There. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, the May 2024 financial report. Mr. Cesar Vela.
I would appreciate it if you call my name too.
But you're not.
This is just a Finance and Audit Committee meeting.
Will I have, am I not a member of finance committee meeting?
No,
See the
sir.
building.
No?
I will recognize.
Okay.
You're on construction. You're chair of construction.
Sorry?
You're chair
Being
of
present for the
construction.
Finance and Audit Committee meeting, and they will be part of the building committee meeting shortly. Mr. Vela.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Ramirez.
And then you open construction. Oh, Cesar.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Ramirez. For the record, Cesar Vela, VP of Finance and Administration. Included with your board packet, you received a copy of the May 2024 financial report. We'll go quickly over the highlights. As of May 31st, our revenue stands at $921,363. That represents 112.4% of our budgeted revenue. A couple of items here to note. One is on the state appropriation. We've received 75% of the appropriation. This year, the appropriation was distributed to the colleges on 3 payments. 50% was received the first month of the fiscal year. We received 25% in February, and so we're just pending the 25% that will be distributed this summer. And that'll complete the 100% of the appropriation. Again, we are expected to receive the 19 million from the state. As far as the tuition, I do want to point out that we do need to do an adjustment, and that has to do with the dual enrollment tuition. The system currently, we are providing an allowance or an exemption for all those dual students. So when the system automatically reduces or accounts for the allowance, it's reducing the complete amount from the tuition line item. So right now you see the fees. The report indicates that we received recorded revenues of 7.8 million in fees out of a budget of 4.7. So we have already collected over 3.1 over our budgeted fees. However, we do need to make the manual adjustment because right now what's happening, again, the system is reducing the fees from the tuition rather than from the fee line item. So we just need to make that reclassification. And it is the same for the general use fee. As far as the other line item, again, the FAST tuition for the dual enrollment for the fall semester total 1.2 million. We are expecting, or we're still expecting the payment for the spring semester, and we'll be recording that as soon as we receive that payment. As far as the local taxes are for the year out of a budget of 45,570,000. We collected 43,051,000. That represents 94.5% of our budget. As far as the other funds, the only item there to report again is the 2.7 million in interest income. We had budgeted 2 million. We are so far collected 2.7 or recorded 2.7 in investment income. We do have, like I mentioned, that one line item there of 4.4 million, and that is the amount that has been allocated for new initiatives. And as those are, as expenses are coming in for those new initiatives, that money is transferred out to those departments. As far as adjustments that will be made, we are planning to pay for the from the tuition and fees, the revenue bond payment of 3.9 million. And from the maintenance tax note, we're planning to pay the principal payment of 3 million. So those adjustments will be made at the end of July. As far as expenses, we don't have any major variances to report. Pretty much expenditures are in line compared to last year. Expenditures as of May 31st are 47,120,394, or 65.47% of our budget. We do have encumbrances of 4,088,000. We have a combined available balance right now of 20,764,564. Again, we still have June, July, and August to record, and those we do expect those expenses or those available balances to drop as we conclude the fiscal year. As far as the other funds, for the Import-Export Center, we have received 141,164 from the state. And this represents the appropriation that is allocated for that program. Expenses for the year are 47,434. For a net increase to the fund balance of 95,730. And again, this is through the month of May 31st. We still have 3 months of operations to go. As far as auxiliary services, we have recorded revenue of 1.8 million, expenses of 1.2 million, for an increase to the fund balance of 663,906. The increase is mostly attributed to the commission income from the bookstore. I did notice that on our financial for this month, we did currently have already recorded the revenue that was generated from the bookstore. So that is what's causing that increase in the revenue line item for the month of May. Restricted funds, we have revenues of 25.8 million, expenses of 25.8 million. Just one item here to report is we are down to the last month of the HERF funding. We do have a line item that will be presented during the committee meeting and also at the board meeting for approval. We are proposing to use the remaining balance to pay off some of the outstanding debt or accounts that we have. And these are for student accounts that were that we encountered during the pandemic. So we have approximately around 251,000 that we are proposing to pay using the remaining balance of the HERF funds. We do after that transaction, we'll have around 25,000 remaining, and those 25,000 will be reinvested into the meal plan for the fall semester. As far as the facilities master plan phase 3, we're down to the last 3 projects. We began the fiscal year with a $12.8 million balance. We've recorded revenue of 564,000, and this revenue goes back into the facilities master plan funding. Expenses for the year total 6.7 million. So the balance as of May 31st stands at 6,686,171. And again, we're working on the last 3 projects. We should be completing some of these projects by the end or the end of the fiscal year or early next. I'm sorry, not the end of the fiscal year, the end of the calendar year or early next year. For the tax collections as of May 31st, we've collected $43,051,337 out of the tax levy. That tax levy is 45,958,564. Right now, we're at 93.68% collection rate. At this point last year, we were at 95.38%. Currently, as we review the remaining months, if we continue at this rate, we will be collecting about 96% of the tax levy. We have been in communication with Mr. Muir. He's been reviewing collection rates. And we are going to be working with also the tax collection office to determine what has been the cause of the drop in collection rate. So as you've seen, we've gone from 96 in 2022 to 95% in 2023 to 93.68% in 2024. Again, our target this year was 98% collection rate. We're gonna be about 2% down this fiscal year based on the current rate right now.
Chair recognizes Mr. Ramirez.
Mr. Delgado and board members, Dr. Ramirez, I have, as you know, been looking at this very carefully. I had a meeting with Ms. Barrera and Ms. Morales, it was about 10 days ago or so, addressing this issue. As you know, I've had several meetings with them. The concern that I'm seeing is that we are not tracking this way in our collections with the Laredo Independent School District college taxes. So the variation that we've seen over the last 4 years with that particular entity, and this is all public knowledge, you could do a PIA request and get the information, but it's all in a narrow range of a 1%. So and it looks like this time 4 years ago, the rate was just about the same as we have today, but we're not seeing that with the tax assessor's office. And I asked the question, I said, why are we tracking down like this? It's turning into a trend. And one thing that was brought up, and I discussed it with Mr. Vela, was, well, maybe Laredo College is calculating its tax rate in a way that's different from the way we calculate it. We don't include maybe the interest and penalties in the calculation. And I raised this, said that doesn't make sense to me, because I think that the college has been calculating the rates that are reported the same way for maybe decades. And so we're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. And then there was a question that they were going to check to see if have all payments been posted on time. And obviously, if they're collecting money and not posting the payments on time, then that's going to affect the collection rate. That might happen because some people will mail their payments in at the end of the month. And so the letters postmarked say, May 30, but it doesn't arrive until sometime in June. Well, you need to be credited for the month prior. So the time that you put it in the mail, but I just, we don't really have an adequate answer. And I had suggested, just exactly as Mr. Vela mentioned, is that we work together with the tax office and try and get a better understanding about why it's happening. And my understanding, is that the other taxing entity, Webb County, is experiencing something similar. But I'm not sure.
But not
No. Pardon?
But not the district.
Not LISD, I'll tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
if I may make a question in reference to Ms. Barrera, I know that there was some questions regarding the collection of delinquency on your part. Were you able to address that issue, Mr. Muir?
Judge, there was an issue there about payment of attorney's fees when we file lawsuits to collect taxes before July 1. That issue is with the Texas Attorney General right now, and they're going to issue an opinion.
Okay.
But if you look at, and I don't know if I brought it with me, but there's a delinquent collection rate. So there's, what we're looking at this number, it's the current year delinquent rate. And then there's this other number, it's prior years delinquent, and that rate is actually quite high. But the problem is the money, the amount of money is not nearly as high as the current year levy. So the idea is to try and collect as much of the current year levy as you can. Whatever remains, say for example, if we had 98% this year, 2% would remain. Some of that would be exemption, some would be in bankruptcy, and then whatever's still collectible goes into the prior year's levy. And then the collection of those tax, that rate's pretty good. Yeah, but it's this current year levy, and I don't have a clear understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So the next item is the monthly investment report. Investments as of April 30th, 2024 stand at 145,597,878. 125 million are currently in bank deposits, 20 million in investment pools. And you can also see there the yields as of April 30th. The demand deposits were yielding 4.42%. The Lone Star investment pool yielded 5.47%, and the FIT investment pool also yielded 5.47%. And the last item is the general operating fund balance. As of May 31st, the fund balance stands at 37,630,886. Again, this will drop as we record the last 3 months of operations, and also record the net pension liability adjustment as well as the health insurance liability adjustments. Right now, as it stands, if we look at the fund balance on the accrual basis, we have about 7% of the proposed 2025 budget in reserve. On a cash basis, we have approximately 80% of that. So again, and this is the difference between cash and the accruals. Obviously, the liabilities that we have to record for the net pension liability and the other post-employment benefit liability that we're required to carry on our books. And that concludes the update for the May financial report. Any questions? Any other items?
No questions? Thank you, Mr. Vela.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, the approval for the purchase of audiovisual equipment for the Global Logistics Center. Mr. Vela?
Yes, members of the board, we're going to be asking that the board approve the purchase of audiovisual equipment for the Global Logistics Center in the amount of $88,240.67. What we're purchasing are 2 video walls for the Global Logistics Center. One is 3x3 and the other one 2x2. The equipment is being purchased from Absent using TIPS contract number 200904. We're asking also that the board allow us to use $88,240.67 from the Import-Export Center fund balance for the purchase of this equipment. We currently have $503,000 in the fund balance. After this purchase, we'll have $415,000 in the fund balance of the logistics center. Any questions on?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Vela. All right, we'll move on to number 5, the ratification for purchase of equipment for the Transportation Technology Department. Mr. Cesar Vela?
Yes, board members, we are asking that the board ratify the purchase of equipment for the from industrial power truck and equipment in the amount of $107,955.89. The equipment that was purchased is 6 Cummins engines, and this equipment is going to be utilized in the diesel mechanics program. The purchase is being made using TIPS contract number 230803. The $107,955.89 have been budgeted as part of the 2024 budget for the Transportation Technology Department equipment line item. Again, this equipment will be utilized,
We
in
did
these
have
truck and oil.
conversations in the past with regards to the diesel mechanic program and purchasing or ratifying equipment. I believe this is the second or the third time equipment's being purchased and it's being ratified. Have any attempts been made to reach out to local entities? Since we have a vast amount of trucking companies and the likes, to see if any donations would be available?
I'm not sure. Again, I would need to check with the department as far as the donations. The reason that, we've got to ratify the item, again, this equipment typically, we did try, looking for it here locally. Unfortunately, because of the amount, that particular vendor was not part of a cooperative. And therefore, it was gonna require us to, go out for an RFP, take a little bit longer time. The other challenge that we have when we buy equipment and trucks, for this program is that we don't buy new equipment. So this is equipment that's available then and there. So we gotta, uh, send out the purchase order so that we can secure the equipment. So in this case, when this transaction is being handled, we don't have a board meeting until the end of the month. That's why that's the reason why we're ratifying it. As far as the donations, I'm sure that, we can take a look at that.
Okay.
So,
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
so we did, as a matter of fact, in the last board meeting, we had, we spoke to a few people. Dr. Ortiz spoke to a few people that were willing to donate. One was a truck and, the other was a trailer, and both of them were older than, 2000, in which case, yeah, it was not, well, for what we're teaching now and for what we have to teach based on the requirements, the equipment that was being donated was much older than we could actually use. And so there was no sense in taking those kinds of donations that are just gonna sit there. And so we have to be really careful because we have to meet certain academic requirements or workforce tips requirements or the WECM requirements. And so it's not as simple as saying, can you donate a truck? Yes, but it's gotta be within these parameters. It can't be older than this, and it's gotta have this kind of an engine, or it has to have this. So, we have this conversation about HVAC and how we're gonna redo that department. I mean, it's gonna happen as we upgrade the programs. We have to upgrade the equipment.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. Thank you, Mr. Villa. Any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you, Mr. Villa. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, annual review and adoption of LC board policy, CAK local, appropriations and revenue sources, investments, Mr. Cesar Villa, and Valley View Investments.
Yes, board members, as part of the Public Funds Investment Act, we are required to bring the investment policy annually to the board for review. And as you remember, we went through an RFQ process to hire an investment advisory firm to assist us with the investments of the college. One of the services that they provide is obviously reviewing our investment policy and making recommendations on the policy. So this evening, we do have Mr. Richard Long from Valley View Consulting, who will be providing an update on some of the recommended changes for the investment policy. Also, those recommendations, you have a copy of that, of the recommendations on the policy. They've also been reviewed by legal. And both legal and administration feel that the recommendations are okay. We don't see any issues with any of those changes. They're basically changes that will better align the policy to the Public Funds Investment Act. I do want to point out something before I pass the presentation to Mr. Long is on section 4.4 authorized dealers. We are going to have a change. The copy of the investment policy that you have includes a company that unfortunately is not registered as a broker dealer. So we're going to have to remove that company from the approved broker dealer list. But again, I will make that change. It's a minor change. We'll just remove that one company. At this time, I'll pass it on to Mr. Long who's joining us via Zoom so that he can provide the board with a brief update on the changes that are being proposed. Mr. Long?
Great, thank you. Thank you for letting me participate via Zoom. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, as Mr. Vela mentioned, most of what we've suggested is clarifying or augmenting certain sections of your policy to bring it in line with the Public Funds Investment Act and a little bit of the Public Funds Collateral Act. There in the authorized investments section, and we can go through this in more detail if you want. We've suggested limiting some of the things that you had authorized that were eligible under the Public Funds Investment Act, but might expose the college to a little bit too much risk in today's market. So we're actually trying to be more conservative than the act would allow. I can go line by line, or I can get some of the highlights. For instance, in this section 2, we're augmenting the standard of care just a little bit to add some language from the act that gives a little bit more cover for the investment officers. As long as they follow the rules, then they're personally not liable. Under strategies, there were some minor clarification on some of the different strategies as far as what might be eligible, what sort of terms would be appropriate for your different types of funds. Under authorized investments, as I mentioned, we mainly eliminated some of them. Securities lending, for example, commercial paper, bankers' acceptances that were potentially going to expose the college to some corporate credit risk. And so we thought it'd be more appropriate to stick with government securities, collateralized bank CDs, things along that line that everybody could be more comfortable with. Did quite a bit of augmenting to the collateral section, both the defining that you are going to require a depository agreement with any financial institution that you place money with, particularly if it's above the $250,000 FDIC insurance level. And part of that is Public Funds Collateral Act related. Part of it deals with some federal banking regulations. So the acronym is FIRREA, the Financial Institution Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act. And that's what the FDIC is going to look to make sure that it's going to honor the pledge of the securities to you as collateral. So again, we just wanted to beef that up a little bit. As Mr. Vela mentioned, we've suggested a few broker dealers. It looks like the college might need to buy some securities as we move forward with some of the strategies we've discussed. The firms that we've suggested are very familiar with the Texas rules, do a lot of public funds business, have offices in Texas. So it's very important that the groups that you put on the list understand the rules, understand your needs, and then therefore provides good service based on those requirements. We augmented the training section a little bit, both clarifying how much training the investment officers are going to need and who they're going to get it from. Under reporting, one small adjustment, it actually comes out of the Open Records Act, and we've suggested that you use weighted average yield maturity as your performance standard. The certification section dealing with the what used to be the broker-dealer sector had to certify. Now only the local government pools need to certify, and if you use a discretionary investment manager, they need to provide that certification that they've read your policy and they've implemented some procedures and controls to help protect you. So we changed that language to narrow it down to the right folks. Add a little section on existing investments that basically say if you own something and the rules change or your policy changes, you don't have to liquidate it. We added a section dealing with a competitive environment, meaning as you move forward, when you look at bank deposits, securities, investment pools, money market accounts, that you're going to have a general sense of where the market is and whether or not you're getting a good return for your investment and the risk that you might be taking. And then we added a little bit of section on internal controls. Again, I know the college has a good set of internal controls, but the Public Funds Investment Act specifically asks that it be addressed. So again, we have a quick overview of some of the controls that you would implement in your normal internal control policies. And that's a quick overview. How much more detail would you like tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Long, very much. Any questions from members of the committee? All right, thank you, Mr. Long. We appreciate the time and all the explanations. Thank you so much. Mr. Vela?
Yes, so board members, this item is again up for approval for the board meeting. There is a resolution that needs to be signed by the president and secretary of the board, just acknowledging that the policy was reviewed And we are, on that resolution, we are noting the sections where those changes were made. Again, nothing that's outside of what the Public Funds Investment Act allows.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, approval to purchase bookstore fixtures and furniture from Follett. Mr. Cesar Vela.
Yes, members of the board, due to the changes that were made for OER, we saw that the activity at the bookstore declined, and the bookstore did approach the institution with concern. So we've had a couple of meetings with bookstore representatives and administration, and it was determined that to best serve our students, we'll now be transitioning our bookstore to an online format. So we won't have a physical store here at the college anymore, being that most of our books are already available to our students. Any books that will not be available that need to be purchased by our students will be done via online and then drop shipped to them. So one of the items that we discussed was the equipment that is currently at the bookstore and the cafe. And we have expressed that we would like to purchase that equipment and fixtures from Follett. They have provided us a list of all the equipment that's available to the institution. The amount is close to about 62,000 of equipment, and this is both for the cafe and the bookstore. So we're talking about furniture currently that's sitting in the library in the cafe area, all the equipment that is utilized to operate the cafe, and then all the fixtures that are available inside the bookstore. Again, we do have plans to continue the operations of the cafe, as well as setting up a college store to possibly sell college merchandise to students, staff, and the community. Again, this is an opportunity that we feel we could take advantage. We are proposing to purchase the equipment using the bookstore fund balance. We have close to about 2.5 million in the bookstore fund balance. Again, the amount is not to exceed 65,000 for the equipment and furniture and fixtures.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
What you in effect are saying is that the majority of the students will be buying their books online. Will we have somebody that will actually provide assistance or help out the students, particularly more so at the beginning of the enrollment period?
So may I answer that? May I answer that?
Chair recognizes.
So no, the students are getting their books for free and they're electronic. The only books that are not yet on open educational resources, which are very few and the majority of them are being worked on this summer, but we will have 5 or 6, maybe 10 at the most, courses that the books are not yet on OERs and the faculty are working on them. Those will be available to drop ship directly from the online bookstore. So we'll probably work with them to create a QR code, or that's what they told us, that they would create a QR code. The students could then log into using their phone, using a QR code by the book, and they'll be overnighted to their homes. But the majority of our courses are all on open educational resources, which are free textbooks to all of our students.
Excellent. But in spite of the fact that they will be available, free of charge, however, will there be some faculty or an employee of the college that will actually provide assistance to the students should there be a need for it?
Yeah, their books are loaded onto their Canvas courses.
Right.
So every course has a Canvas shell, that where their syllabus is, where their requirements are, where their grades are, where they communicate with their faculty member, everything is on that canvas. On the canvas shell for each class, and their book is already loaded there, and they just click it and the book opens and it's there. Now, if there's a problem, yes, through the technology help desk or through the faculty member, the student is then assisted. For those that need to still purchase the book, they'll use the QR code. The faculty member will have a QR code available to them as well. So there will be people to assist should they need it.
So,
Thank you.
one of the things, Judge, is that,
About technology.
I know.
this transition will happen at the end of the summer. And there will be marketing material that will be distributed to students. They will be able to access the online bookstore through our website. And as Dr. Ramirez mentioned, if they do need assistance, either through the help desk, the instructor or student services, we can offer that assistance to the student.
Chair recognizes Ms. Vela.
That's so sad. I mean, you don't have a book to highlight and to make notes on.
You do that electronically, ma'am. You highlight electronically.
I mean, it's just not to have,
Actual book,
yeah.
I'm with you there.
I mean, it's sad to see something like that, but I mean, technology, I understand, but it's just,
Yeah, things are changing, so.
there's.
Mr. Delgado doesn't use hardcover books. See,
We're saving the environment.
There's still, there are a few students, that need the actual book. Special needs, maybe, I don't know. It's just sad. I want a book. Like those audio books.
I'm with you there.
I mean, it's just
That's
sad.
Board meeting, we'll make sure to get Ms. Vela and Mr. Martinez a book. Any other questions on this item?
No,
Thank you, Mr. Vela.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, approval of interlocal agreement to join educational purchasing cooperative. Mr. Cesar Vela.
Yes, board members were seeking approval to join the Region 6 Education Service Center purchasing cooperative. This is being done to facilitate the college's compliance with the competitive procurement requirements for purchases. And this is allowed through interlocal agreement contracts under Chapter 791 of the Texas Government Code, and also is authorized by the Texas Education Code 44, Section 44. The membership does not require any fee from the college. It is again free of charge to the college. The agreement is for 1 year and it automatically renews every year. Again, this is with Region 6 Education Service Center. And again, this is another option that the college will have as we look to procure services and any other goods that may be needed for the operations of the institution.
Any questions from members of the committee?
no.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vela. We'll move on to agenda item number 9, approval to purchase annual licenses for Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir. And this is just again to request the approval to purchase the annual licenses for the Respondus Lockdown browser. This is currently being used here at the institution. The license includes 200 Respondus Monitor seats annually. Also, the term is from August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2025. As part of the approval of us joining Region 6, again, this is one of the services that we can acquire through that purchasing cooperative. The services are under EPIC 6 or Education Region 6, RFP 21.22 dash 24.22, and it's under technology solutions and services. The amount for the annual license is $50,360. And they are part of the 2024 budget and they were e-learning and instructional innovation centers licensing line item.
Any questions from members of the committee?
Mm-mm.
Thank you, Mr. Vella. We'll move on to agenda item number 10, approval of the purchase of furniture for the Congressman Henry Cuellar Protective Services Center. Mr. Cesar Vella?
Yes, board members, this is part of the renovation project that we're currently undergoing at the Congressman Henry Cuellar Protective Services Center. We are requesting approval to purchase the classroom furniture for the auditorium classroom that is currently being renovated. In your packet, you have a diagram of how the seating will be allocated for that classroom. Also, you have a sample of both the table and the chairs that will be purchased. The colors are not, those are not the colors. But that is the table and the chairs that will be purchased for this large classroom. The purchase is being made from Office Source Ltd. And we're using the Omnia Cooperative Bilingual Contract Number OT 0040131B. Region 4 R221003 and contract number R191811. And again, it includes both seating and the tables that will be installed in this auditorium classroom. The total purchase is $119,881.20, and the funds are currently part of the facilities master plan phase 3 bond proceeds.
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
would you mind, where is exactly the Henry Cuellar Center within the campus?
It's at the South Campus,
Oh,
Chair.
South Campus?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
and this is where we house the Police Academy.
The police academy?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Vella. All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Mr. Vella. We'll move on to agenda item number 11, ratification of student debt forgiveness, Dr. Fred Solis.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the esteemed board members, President Ramirez and colleagues. Fred Solis, Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment. This evening, I stand before you asking for your support in the ratification of the student debt forgiveness initiative. This is an enrollment incentive that we're putting together thanks to the available funding that was coming to the college through the Higher Education Emergency Relief Funding, otherwise known as HER. As you heard Mr. Vella earlier indicate that we still had a balance of over $258,000 in that grant money. And so we would be using we have used already $231,190 to forgive the debt of 469 students as an incentive for the fall semester enrollment.
How many students is this?
469 students have been impacted by the debt forgiveness.
Chair recognizes Ms. Cepeda.
Are these returning students or are we clearing out everybody's debt?
For the most part, these are students that were with us in 2001, 2002, 2021, 2022, and so on. So they are returning students that have stopped because they owe us money. And so hopefully this will help as an incentive to return.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
We have a plan. They've come up with a plan of how to bring these 469, or at least try to attract these 469 students back to finish. Because if you recall the list of ways for us to get support from House Bill 8 is to be able to report completers. And so one of the things we want to do is one, we have to use these funds before the end of August, and two, and we can only use it on certain things. And two, be able to maximize the enrollment of these students if we're able to bring them back. And so there is a plan.
And that's actually my next question. What are we doing with the 26,000 that's left off in the balance?
As Mr. Vella pointed out earlier, it's going to be shifted over to the meal plan percentages. And just a clarification, actually, the deadline to use up this money is this Sunday, the end of
I thought it was
June.
August.
So that's why we had to take action first and then come to the board for ratification.
Very good. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Solis. Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. All right, move on to agenda item number 12, approval to use the student activities fee. Excuse me. Agenda item number 12, approval to use the student activities fund balance to cover student employee positions. Dr. Fred Solis.
Once again, Fred Solis, Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment. We're asking the support of the Finance and Audit Committee to allow the college to use the Student Activities Fund balance to hire student employees for about 90 student employee positions. Those positions will be distributed across campus in offices that have direct contact with students. We took a similar action earlier back in October of this past school year, and that proved to be successful in terms of engaging students and allowing them to stay on campus and basically get involved as employees.
Any questions?
Mm-mm.
Thank you, Dr. Solis.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 13, approval for the subscription renewal with Weave Education LLC. Dr. Veronica Martinez.
Good afternoon, board members, President Ramirez, colleagues. My name is Dr. Veronica Martinez. I'm the Associate Vice President of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness. And the institutional effectiveness process requires that the college engage in ongoing and integrated and a comprehensive evaluation process. As part of that process, we have an established assessment process where all instructional programs, and we're talking about approximately 40 instructional programs and approximately 45 service units. So that's about 85 annual reports that we handle for the IE process. So as you can imagine, this process requires an effective repository where we can manage the documentation and to demonstrate compliance with the process. Currently, we use Weave Education, and this is an innovative online platform that allows higher ed institutions. So they just work with institutions in higher education to monitor and document our assessment initiatives. We normally renew annually for a total cost of $18,000. However, we have an opportunity. They've offered us a 3-year subscription renewal, and for a total cost of $52,725. And that would give us a discount of almost $3,000. The benefits of a 3-year subscription, besides the cost savings and the continuation of services, are that it facilitates the programmatic and institutional assessment in one platform. It's very intuitive. We have a link on our website where our assessment coordinators, our department chairs, our deans, all our VPs can access the information. It also provides transparency of data for the discussion of data-driven decisions between programs and units. And it also provides us expert support from Weave Education, which I may add, the component of their staff are all higher education professionals. So they've all been practitioners in schools, in colleges and institutions, 4-year institutions. So they know about assessment and they know about the inner relationships between assessment and the decision making. So for that reason, we seek your approval to accept the 3-year subscription renewal with Weave Education.
Question, we're already using this service?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just show you really quickly. We've been using it for several years. It is a key component of our accreditation process. So when we have to submit evidence to SAC-COC, which is our accreditor, we rely on the evidence that is in this particular program.
Dr. Martinez, will you get to the mic, please?
Yeah, sorry. When we submit accreditation evidence, we have it here about LC. We rely on this system that we call Weave to present the evidence that we're using.
Excuse me, Dr. Martinez, I'm sorry. Can you share the screen so we can see what you're looking at?
Yeah, she's trying to.
Oh, just kidding.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you. So within our own website for planning and institutional effectiveness, we have a link that our assessment coordinators, basically any employee can access. So we have the Weave Education link. And this is a key component, as I mentioned, of our accreditation, but also of our assessment efforts. And so everybody, sorry, let me just talk. So it's a very intuitive system that allows you, for example, this is the view that I get on the dashboard because we can see all of the assessment reports that are currently there. We can see how many have started, how many have not, how many are complete. We can also look at, for example, all that we call them in the system, they call them projects, but we look at all of the projects that are on there. So as I mentioned, every educational program, every student support program, every administrative program must complete an assessment report. And so all of these are here. We can look for them via project name, via year. So it's very easy for a vice president, for example, to go in and see how their division is doing. With the president as well, Dr. Ramirez can ask for a report. So this allows us to share data. There's data transparency, but it also allows us to document the work that is being done by the different units and the different entities. And so when we have our accreditation visit, a lot of the times we create an account for our accrediting review team. We allow them access. They can go in and review any of the projects that we have. And it's totally transparent. So we can show them that we are complying with our assessment, but more importantly, that we're using the data that is derived from our assessment process to make data-driven changes and improvements to our programs and services.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
No, very good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Martinez.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 14, approval of contract with TNG Strategic Risk Management Solutions. Mr. Cesar Vela and Dr. David Ariasola.
Dr. Sola's online.
Yes.
He's at a conference.
There it is.
Oh,
There it
yes.
is.
Finance administration. This next item was asking for the contract with strategic management solutions. And this is for Title IX training. Again, this is a compliance item. Training will consist of 5 days custom on-site. Course to be covered for investigator 1, hearing officer, hearing advisor, and investigation report writing. The dates of the trainings are September 16th through September 20th. And each training session will have a maximum of 25 staff members. The total cost for this customized training is $69,000. TNG has provided services in the past regarding the Title IX training. The amount is budgeted in the 2024, well, budgeted in the 2025 budget. And the services are being acquired through sole source method. Again, and this is from TNG Strategic Risk Management Solutions.
Everybody's gonna go, right?
We have to.
It'll be,
We have to.
my understanding, it'll be a mandatory training
Okay.
for all those involved with Title IX.
Any questions for members of the committee? All right, thank you, Mr. Vela.
By the way, we will ask board members to attend as well because of all of the changes to Title IX by the Department of Ed recently. It is imperative that everybody get retrained again. So we will ask representation from the board to attend these trainings. Well, we'll ask you all we'll ask for representation from the board at one of the sessions. Okay?
You already know.
All right, agenda item number 15. Thank you, Mr. Vela. Agenda item number 15, order calling for the election for Board of Trustees, places 4, 5, and 6, as per board policy BBB legal. board members' elections, the Texas Election Code and the Texas Education Code, and authorizing the college president to enter into a joint election services contract with the Webb County Elections Administrator to conduct and supervise the joint elections of November 5th, 2024. Dr. Martinez?
Good afternoon again.
Turn it on.
Is it on? Yeah. My name is Dr. Veronica Martinez. I also serve as the elections officer for Laredo College. And we are seeking approval of the order calling for the election for Board of Trustees positions 4, 5, and 6 as per board policy BPB legal board members elections. Additionally, we are seeking authorization from the board to allow the college president to enter into a joint election services contract with the Webb County Elections Administrator for the November 5th, 2024 general election. Laredo College's portion of the contract is estimated at $116,217.07. The entities that are involved for the November 5th election are 7. So we have it, so the cost is divided between 7, which is Laredo College, the city, the county, LISD, UISD, Rio Bravo, and El Cenizo. So all of them will have elections on the ballots in November. Important to note is that in the event that we have a runoff, then the cost will increase. The last election, we did not have to participate in a runoff, so the cost that was presented for approval was the same as the final cost. However, for this one, we are estimating $116,217.07. In lieu of a runoff, it would increase. We would not have the projections yet of the cost of a runoff until later on, after the closer to the election. Significant dates to consider are that July 22nd.
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
Go ahead.
If I may ask, who are the board members of 4, 5, and 6, please?
For positions 4, 5, and 6. Yes, sir. For positions 4, 5, and 6, it would be Ms. Cepeda, Mr. Delgado, and Mr. Rangel.
Thank you very much.
Important to consider are the dates. So the first day to place the name on the general election ballot is July 22nd of 2024. The last day to place their name on the general election ballot is August 19, 2024. The early voting dates are October 21 through November the 1st. And the general election day will be November the 5th, 2024. I also want to mention that at the meeting held at the elections office, we were notified that for this election, Laredo College will not be a early voting site, nor will be an election day site.
Wow.
They are moving the site that was designated for Laredo College to the city hall, because they do have a need for a more central location. And since the annex where the elections office is no longer an election site, they're going to assign city hall as an election site. So for this coming election, we will not be considered an election site.
Any questions for members of the committee?
No, I've heard.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 16, implementation of new salary thresholds for exempt employees under the Federal Labor Standards Act, LFSA. Ms. Veronica Cardenas.
Yes, good afternoon. Veronica Cardenas, Executive Director of Human Resources. I just wanted to let the board know that the Fair Labor Standards Act passed a new regulation or revised the regulations regarding their exempt salary threshold. These new regulations outline a phased approach to the implementation. In the first phase, which is effective July 1st, this will increase the minimum salary threshold to $43,888 and then to $58,656 on January the 1st of 2025. However, this January 1st, 2025 is being challenged. So it might not go into effect, and I'll go into more details as to what that impacts our employees. So we're still waiting and we'll go ahead and continue monitoring that and then let the board know if there's any changes. So these new regulations include also an automatic update to the minimum salary threshold every 3 years, which does begin July 1st of 2027. So the first phase that we have to take care of right now is the July 1st deadline. The rule will impact, of course, employers across the country, including Laredo College. And these changes will impact some of our employees who are currently exempt. The faculty, however, and the non-exempt staff, which are the hourly, they will not be impacted. So now that the final rule was released and is now going to be implemented, it will impact some of our positions. The departments and the impacted employees have been notified on how the college will address these changes. And we're going to be addressing them in several ways. First of all, those that are currently exempt making less than the new salary threshold will be impacted as follows. Some of these impacted employees will be transitioned from exempt staff to non-exempt staff, in other words, to hourly. They will become eligible for overtime compensation for hours worked over 40 hours in a work week. Some impacted employees may receive a salary adjustment and will remain exempt. They will continue to not be eligible to earn overtime. And then some of employees, the exempt employees making more than the new threshold of 43,888 will have to become non-exempt or hourly because their job code or their position code as a whole also moves to the non-exempt salary. So because we have this salary pay plan that we look at every year and we do a pay maintenance, we really are not impacted as much for the July 1st. We do have about 5 employees that are making less than the threshold, so they will be moved. But 6 others will be impacted because they have the same position code, so that will be a total of 11, and these fall under pay grade 101. So those have been notified already, and they will become hourly starting July the 1st. For pay grade 102, we identified 8 employees that will need to receive a slight adjustment. It's right under $400, and that will allow them to continue to be exempt. So our recommendation was to actually make that adjustment, and it's going to cost about $3,500. And so that will be taking effect July the 1st. So that way they will continue to be exempt.
Any questions from members of the committee?
No.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cardenas. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 17, approval of annual banner SaaS, ERP Essentials and Enterprise Schedule Payment. Mr. Albert Chavez.
Good evening, members of the Finance and Audit Committee and College Administration. Albert Chavez, Associate Vice President for Information Technology. This evening, we're requesting that the board approves the annual payment to the Lamar Institute of Technology in the amount of $606,876 for the SaaS, Software as a Service, Enterprise Resource Planning Essentials, and Enterprise Scheduler. This is the annual payment for the Lucian Banner SaaS solution that we're in the process of implementing. Lamar Institute of Technology? Lamar Institute of Technology was appointed just recently as the school that's taking payments for the Texas Connection Consortium. Previously, it was Texas A&M Corpus Christi. They were the ones that were handling the financials for the Texas Connection Consortium. But this, a few months ago, it was transitioned to Lamar. Also, as you could tell, probably one of the reasons why they transitioned, this invoice is for September 1, 2023 to August 31st of 2024, which we're almost towards the end. So this will be for the current fiscal year. Again, for this system, we are scheduled to go live on September the 30th.
Any questions from members of the committee?
No.
No. Thank you, Mr. Chavez. We'll move on to agenda item number 18, approval of Microsoft annual license renewal. Mr. Chavez.
Good evening, members of the Finance and Audit Committee and School Administration. Albert Chavez, Associate VP of Information Technology. For this particular item, we're requesting that the board approves the Microsoft annual licensing renewal in the amount of $74,996.09, which will be procured through the reseller SHI Government Solutions. using a DIR contract, DIR CPO 5237. This agreement covers our Microsoft Office 365 cloud email service, our licensing for the Windows 10 and 11 for the workstations, and also the Microsoft Office suite, Microsoft Word, Excel, and so forth. This agreement will start from July 1st, 2024, and it will go through June 20th of 2025.
Any questions from members of the committee? All right, thank you, Mr. Chavez. We'll move on to agenda item number 19, approval of Oracle annual software and support renewal. Mr. Chavez.
Good evening, members of the Finance and Audit Committee. Albert Chavez, Associate VP of Information Technology. For this item, we're requesting that the Board of Trustees approves payment to Oracle for the annual software license and support agreement in the amount of $236,973.83 using a DIR contract, DIR TSO 4158, and this is directly through Oracle. This is the license and software support agreement for the Oracle database system that we currently use for the Banner system on premise. This is the last renewal that we'll be doing on an annual basis, because when we move to the SaaS cloud, we will no longer be using Oracle.
Interesting. Any questions from members of the committee?
Mm-mm.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Move to agenda item number 20, approval of Microsoft Intune and OneDrive implementation services. Mr. Chavez.
Good evening, members of the Finance and Audit Committee. For this particular item, we're requesting that the board approve implementation services for the cost to implement Microsoft Intune and OneDrive for Business in the amount of $97,768. These professional services will be procured through Dell Technologies using DIR contract, DIR TSO 3763. Microsoft Intune and OneDrive are products that are part of our Microsoft Office solution suite. And these two products will allow us to centrally manage our computers on campus, software deployment, patching, and imaging, and so forth. And the OneDrive will allow us to back up staff data to the OneDrive, so that way, in case there's a hard drive failure or anything like that, we'll be able to recover that. Also, having the employee data on the OneDrive will allow for an easy and smooth transition from the current workstation to a replacement computer. Again, this is just for the professional services for Dell to help us implement the solution. We currently own the two products.
Yeah. Any questions from members of the committee?
Mm-mm.
All right. We'll move on to agenda item number 21, approval of Palomino Pledge for the academic year 2024 to 2025. Dr. Fred Solis.
For the record, Fred Solis, Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment. Administration is asking the support of the Audit and Finance Committee and the board members to support the Palomino Pledge for academic year 2024-2025. The pledge is in essence a funding program that covers the gap between need-based financial aid and the cost of tuition, otherwise known as the last dollar funding. The pledge tuition funding will be awarded to students who meet certain eligibility requirements, and we're currently working on what those requirements are going to be, and certain deadlines that students have to comply with in order to become eligible as well. Again, the purpose of the pledge is to eliminate financial barriers that currently are faced by students, and allowing them to continue or enroll here at the college, provided that they do have financial aid backing them up as well. So the total cost of the pledge is $3 million, which is currently in the fiscal year 25 budget as a request in the budget. But we would probably be using fund balance monies to jumpstart it now, while the approval of the budget taking place until August. But again, we are asking the support of the board with this funding program as an enrollment incentive program for our students.
Any questions from members of the committee? All right. Thank you, Dr. Fred. All right, it is approximately 6:41 p.m. and the Finance and Audit Committee meeting is adjourned.
Okay, if I may now, I will start the building committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of June, 2024. And I would like to call on the members of this building committee. Mercurio Martinez Jr. is chair, Ms. Lupita Cepeda,
Present.
Mr. Jorge J.D. Delgado,
Present.
Mr. Esteban Rangel
Absent.
is absent, and we will officially recognize also Ms. Tita Cantu Vela present at this meeting. Appreciate you being here, ma'am. uh, I still don't have the agenda.
Yeah, it's right here. Here's your agenda.
Oh, yeah,
So you already did roll call?
that's right.
Mhm.
We've done our roll call.
Yeah. And now you're.
And now we get item number 3, and that is the construction update. Chair will recognize Mr. Vice as well as Mr. Albert Chavez. You have the floor.
Wasn't ever a problem before. Why is it a problem? No, but before, you never had this, they could, like, end up their own presentation. They were like,
Okay, good evening. Y'all can see the screen. Okay, good evening, board members, Dr. Ramirez, administration and colleagues. We are bringing you an update. We were last here at the end of March. So we've had progress of 3 months. So I'll go through the projects and show you photographs of the progress on site for each of them and give you a brief description of what's going on each of the sites. You've seen this list before, it's been updated. These are the current projects for Laredo College that are in progress. Some of them have already commenced work, as you know, and some of them are coming up for construction. At the South Campus, we have the Raquel Gonzalez Diesel Shop, Auto Collision, and the Congressman Henry Cuellar Protective Service Facility renovation in progress. Here at the Fort Mac, we have the MFA HVAC replacement project. The Lamar Bruning Vergara Environmental, the Arechka Facility Interior Exterior Renovation, the Moore Building Courtyard Covered Structure and Welding Shop Improvements, and the old facilities that are being recommended for demolition here at the end of the year, and the upcoming project, which is the guardhouse renovation for the future Laredo College Veterans Center. We have included on the list several facilities to report from rainstorm damage and wind damage. These buildings have been assessed after the recent storms here about 4 weeks ago, and they are the MFA rooftop conditions, excuse me, the DPS facility, P24, the LEAC, the Kazan facility, and then the P wood frame houses on the northwest corner of the college property here at Fort Mac. Here at the South Campus, photograph showing you some of the progress work in the diesel shop. The structure has now been covered up. We have the MEP subcontractors working on both facilities, both the diesel shop and the auto collision. We also have the fire sprinkler subcontractor on site, the painters, the tile people working in the restrooms. So there's been a lot of progress as of this morning. We did receive the overhead doors for the shop openings that you can see here in the photographs. And the overhead doors are being installed as of yesterday. You will also see the dates up above. None of the dates have changed on any of the projects at this time. So those dates still stand firm at this time. This is the men's restroom in the diesel shop. It's a combination of a restroom and dressing area. So you see some of the tile work that has been completed for the larger tile that was installed. The flooring has been done, it's been covered to protected. We have metal stud framing on the ceiling, some of the sheetrock, and some of the beginning of some of the tape and float work that has been going on inside these restrooms. This is a photograph of the diesel shop, the north elevation. You can see some of the work that has been completed on the exterior, the masonry work, the metal siding, the soffit gutters have been put in place. And the gentlemen in the photograph are currently working on installing the downspouts to go ahead and get the water off of the rooftop. At the Congressman Henry Cuellar Protective Services, the restroom facilities for the men's and women's have been completed. The architect and myself did do a punch list, and the contractor and subcontractors are currently working on this list, so we can go ahead and finish everything inside the restrooms and have them open up so the cadets and the staff can use them. And that will allow the contractor to move into the existing restrooms for some of the renovations that are going to take place in those restrooms as well.
Where are these located?
These are located down the hallway towards the west of the building.
Mhm.
So if you were to walk out your office, come in, and then take an immediate right to the first hallway
Oh, okay,
at the end on the left-hand side.
thank you.
I'll go back to the protective service. So there is additional work going on. I didn't add any more photographs. I was just trying to shorten up my PowerPoint, but we do have the final painting on the basement level. All of the HVAC ducts have been installed. The AC unit has been delivered, has been installed as well. And up on the ground level, we do have improvements on the large lecture room that Mr. Vela mentioned about purchasing the furniture for. And currently the contractor and subcontractors have completed the plywood decking on the raised platform, and they'll soon start the finished flooring material installation as well. The MFA HVAC replacement project, we're coming up to a 2-year working on this project. It's been a very long, tedious project, very complicated scope, but we're coming to the tail end of it. A couple of photographs of some control technicians working on a panel for the units, and then some photographs showing you some of the new equipment. We are expected a final completion at the end of August of 2024 for this project. The contractor and subcontractors are working on a punch list that was conducted on the 18th. So that punch list is ongoing right now. So we do have a substantial completion on the project. So now we're working towards a final completion for this project. During the storm that we had here about 4 weeks ago, the one that had the very high winds and heavy rains, we did have some damage to the new equipment. It's believed that it probably got hit by lightning. So 5 of the new VFD boards were damaged. These are control boards and displays. Since then, 4 out of the 5 have been put back online as of Monday. One of them does show signs of further damage past the VFDs, which are power boards that may need to be replaced. So they're working on that. Luckily, everything is under warranty, so there's no extra charge for this work. The main existing MFA chiller unit will not be shut down until everything is running 100%. We do have a switchover that is now scheduled instead of Friday, the 28th. It is now scheduled for Thursday, the 27th at 3 p.m. So operation maintenance has been advised. We will have HVAC personnel on site during the switchover. And this is to get the switchover from the old system to the new system, which requires some opening and closing of valves.
May I ask, have
Go ahead.
you communicated those dates with the academics? Because if we have classes in there, we're scheduled to have events in there.
Yeah, we did check with the MFA with the auditorium portion of, because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any events scheduled, so there's not. They're currently working on the stage flooring right now. I think they're coating it or painting it or something. But this shutdown is at 3 p.m. They will not probably feel the difference in temperature because the building will be already cold enough. So they leave 3 hours later. So we don't think it's going to affect them. They won't even notice the temperature change.
Okay, well, we just need to make sure we
Yeah.
communicate with
Yeah.
Dr. McGinnis in there as well.
Yeah, we did speak with him prior to today's meeting. And I've also spoken to Mr. Wichita. So we have the HVAC personnel ready for Thursday at 3 p.m.
And in August, I'm sorry, but in August, we have convocation August the 12th. It
should be good, yes.
Okay.
Everything is pretty much completed, just the punch list. But this is really just taking the old unit away and putting it to the new unit. But we do have the control boards that got affected and have been replaced. So we're wanting it to run 100% here in the month of July, and get all the little bugs that may come up. But it's ready to go.
I have a question.
Yes.
Training recommends installing a surge lightning protection unit. Is it gonna be for free? It should have recommended it from the get-go.
Well, and I had a question because you would want it to be on the list. Apparently it was not on the list. They are.
So now, is it costing us to replace all these damage controls?
No, not any of the damages. No, those are being picked up by Train. But they are going to be submitting a quote to us for review and possible approval to go ahead and put a surge lightning protection unit on this system, just to protect it from any future storms that they may get hit by lightning. But we did check, and it was not on the actual scope of work or proposal that was prepared 2 years ago. There's a question. Go ahead, sir.
Special Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment. Mr. Price, I just want to confirm the availability of the MFA for graduation in August the 9th. We have our baccalaureate programs that are graduating on that day.
No, we should be.
We should be good on
yes.
the 9th. Okay.
This switchover system is really going to take place in a matter of hours. The reason why they moved it from Friday to Thursday was they prefer for it to happen on Thursday because they have their trained techs in town. So if anything were to arise, they could go ahead and figure it out and get it fixed. So they're using the afternoon of Thursday and Friday if needed, but they don't foresee any issues on the actual switchover.
Now, are you speaking with Train?
Almost
Or do
every,
you communicate with Train?
almost every day, man. So.
Okay.
Okay, Chair recognizes Mr. Villa.
Yes, members of the board, one item also that we are considering and looking into is all of this equipment is exposed to weather conditions, so we're looking to see if we can add metal canopies over the equipment. Again, that was not part of the original scope when we just looked at the equipment and obviously making the connections. But now that we're looking at it, some of these pumps and are literally exposed to the sun and the rain, and so we wanna see if we can maybe put some metal canopies over some of this equipment to protect it, to prolong the life of the equipment.
But my concern to train would be that this is their work. The surge protector should be included
Correct.
if it's exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So I don't see why Train should charge us for it if it wasn't included on the original contract. I mean, it's costing us a lot of money,
Right,
this
right.
particular.
Yeah, I currently don't have any idea of what that surge protector is
I'm
gonna
sure it's
cost.
gonna be expensive.
But what I'll do is I'll have a sit-down meeting with them and discuss that issue about that it should have been included.
Yes, please.
And see what we can do about it.
Chair, Mr. Vela, you want additional observation or comments? Any other observation? I agree with Mr. Cepeda. I think it is very, very important that we ought to provide protection. The way the photos actually reflect here, they're being exposed to the weather. And I think the kind of investment that we have is sizable, and we ought to have some kind of protection that hopefully will eliminate the being exposed to the environment. You will follow up on that, sir?
Right, yeah. So the slide that I moved over to shows you some of the exposed equipment that we were considering possibly covering up because it is open to the elements. So, you know, up on the corner on the left-hand side, these are all insulated chill water lines, but the pumps shown here are behind. So we would want to cover this area with a structure and possibly cover these that are on the opposite corner way down here in this middle photograph. Just to protect the pumps. I think those pumps run anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 a piece. So them being exposed to the heat of Laredo and the open elements would probably shorten their lifespan. So we want to try to protect them, and of course the control boxes. We have 5 main control boxes that need to also be protected. We can't cover the new chiller unit because that operates with air, so we need to leave that open. And then we have the new screen that we've done here to allow the air to get in, to be able to allow these machines to breathe and operate 100%. But we will take those questions to them and get back with you on some answers.
Okay. The chair recognizes Mr. Cepeda again, please.
I just have a question. Are there HVAC units at the south and here? Are they covered? I think the one at the south is covered, isn't it? The chillers?
All of the chiller water towers are out in the open.
All of them.
All of them.
All like this equipment is
Right.
out in the open on the.
They're out in the open. They do need the open air to be able to breathe and circulate the air around them. We do have concerns about the South Campus that you know we've been talking about because those units sit in the middle of 4 walls, so it allows very minimal air. So we talked about possibly, you know, here in the near future is doing some of these vents on the walls just to allow more air. It does have to have an impact on the unit because that's the way these units operate.
Right.
So we've been looking at those conditions that we have right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments or observations from any member
No, sir.
of the committee? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. The next project, the Lamar Bruni, we've got here at Fort Mac. A lot of improvement on site right now. Some photographs showing you some of those improvements here that have taken place in the past 3 months. These photographs show you the new animal clinic facility. This building has a roof cover on it already, gutters in place, metal stud fur downs, the dense glass board has already been put in place. So it's just waiting for masonry and metal panels and soffit panels to go ahead and get it weathered in completely. The interior shows you all of the metal studs, the new HVAC units, and then of course all of the supporting systems, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing already in place. The facility does have insulation, and everybody is currently going through all of their inspections. So we can go ahead and schedule the contractors, go ahead and put sheetrock up and start taping floating. Some other improvements on the Lamar Bruni, some of the pump rooms, the alligator facility that will support the alligator station, the feeding of the alligators is currently going up. On the photograph, you see a frame on the far side. That's the space for the new pumps for the new water pond. So progress on the alligator areas is currently ongoing. And these are other facilities that are going up on site. Most of them are pump rooms, expansions of current facilities to support the use of those facilities. And the new bird enclosure facility in the middle on top, and then some of the steel structure pipes that are going on site. Since then, all of the structure pipes have been put up, and this will be the enclosed structure and the netting for the bird enclosure. Here, close by the Arechiga facility, we have a lot of improvements on the facility ongoing right now. Some of the first two photographs on the left-hand side show you some of the wood framing that is currently going on the south side of the facility. This framing has already taken place on the north side, but this is ongoing work for the replacement of the balcony that got completely restructured and redone. The middle photographs show you the north side of the building, which is the concrete floor and stairs that now sit on grade, and that work is semi-completed. There's still further work that needs to be done, but some of the concrete on the north side has been completed at this time. The other two photographs show you some of the improvements, HVAC, ductwork, and some plumbing down on the bottom for the new restrooms on the second level. This is currently the south side of the facility, and that's some work being prepared for the slab on grade for the entrance balcony to get into the facility on the south side. Here is a couple of photographs showing you some of the framing that has been semi-completed already on the south side, above the work that's going on below it. So it shows you all of the new framing, the bracing, the 2x and the cross bracing, and then the tongue and groove slats that are the walking surfaces for the second level.
Before you get into that, the Arechiga building, does it have a basement?
Yes, sir, it does. Probably a third of the facility has a basement in the center portion of the building. And that is going through some renovations and upgrades as well. Mainly what we have down there is all the connectivity and systems for data, electrical. So we're improving all that and running our new data and fiber lines on trays just to improve all of the services that are underneath that building, right now. But it is going through an upgrade as well.
Great, thank you.
The Moore Building, a recent project that came on board, already, we do have a building permit in hand. We've held a pre-construction meeting already with all the team on site. We do have a notice to proceed that was signed, notifying that day one was this past Monday, which was yesterday. So the contractor is now commencing and mobilizing on site. We did have a rebar and rebar cylinders delivered for all the piers late last week, and they're currently sitting on site already. And so work has commenced, and the contractor is currently working and turning over the bonds for our file. Contracts and everything were delivered, dropped off at their office. We have a copy of it here, and we took a copy to Rusty's office as well today for his file. So we estimate a construction time frame of 12 months for this project. This is a lot of outside work, excuse me, but it also includes some relocation of some welding units from one shop to another. So there is a lot of electrical work as well. So we will have to work around the students. So we're in open communication with the staff, and we'll be working closely with them to get this project completed.
If I may, and if it's all right with members of the board, I think that perhaps the through I mean that we might be able to schedule a tour by all members of the board, so that we will particularly more so the buildings that are historical in our campus, like you of course are right now are doing quite a bit of improvements on the Rechiga building.
Yeah.
But I think it will be a good thing for members of our board to be going through a tour and familiarize ourselves with all of these new improvements or actually things that obviously have had a positive impact in our campus. Is that
Absolutely.
perhaps it can be arranged, Dr. Ramirez?
And if it's okay with you, I'd like to probably try to do it in the morning when it's not so hot.
That would be ideal.
And see who can come, and we can schedule 2 or 3 of these so that not everybody shows up at the same time and we don't have a walking quorum. Thank you, Rusty. But also I'd like to show you the facilities that are gonna need help. We've got numerous facilities that are in dire need of fixing, and so I'd like to take you through the ones that we're currently working on, and then those that are gonna need help.
Why don't you go ahead
Yes.
and work on a schedule?
I'll work with the team and we'll,
As hopefully all of the members of the board will be able to make it take time, and then of course go through a little bit of a tour of all of these different facilities.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
So, yeah, and I think it's a very good idea. Right now, if you would actually walk into Arechiga, you would appreciate the historical part of the project, because everything is open, exposed, so you can see the original building before we cover it up. So looking at it now and then looking at it when it's completed, you would really appreciate what that building's gonna look like when it's completed. So it's a very good idea to go ahead and allow you all to walk it.
Thank you.
A couple of buildings that have been still on schedule. Their architect has already pretty much prepared a package out for so we can go out for bids. This package will probably go out in July, so we can have a number by late July, early August. This will be funded by the new budget coming up, and is for building 7 and 8 and the west annex to go ahead and get them demoed and removed from their sites. The old post guardhouse renovation, the future site of the LC Veteran Center. We do have a floor plan that has been approved already. We did do some final modifications to the greeting table. Everything else, I think, stayed pretty much the way it was. You'll see some additional photographs or renderings of that. So in talking with the architect, with the progress of documents, they are scheduled to have a set of documents for construction and specifications by the end of August of 2024. I believe this project will go out for bids for a contractor. So that will probably take place September, October. Hopefully bring it to the board for approval by October of 2024 to go ahead and commence work possibly before the end of the year. We don't have a time frame right now for the project. That will be contingent on who gets awarded, and after we have a sit-down conversation with the awarded contractor to get a time frame for the entire scope. I do have some additional renderings. The facility, some of the changes that were done to the greeting table. It is now facing the front door. It's an L-shaped type of table. Some of the finishes on the interior that are being considered. Some of the site showing the facility and the surrounding grounds around the building. And then the architect submitted some new renderings to us recently. So these are some of the latest renderings that were done for the facility, and some of the improvements already shown for the facility. Some
Just one question. Since it's gonna be a veteran educational center, be sure to consider more handicap spaces in front of it. I think we only have two or three. Two in front of it.
Yeah, it has been a discussion in our conversations during the design process, and we are looking at adding additional spaces just because of the use of the facility.
Right.
And they should be located directly in front.
Right in front.
So if you go to the site plan, it'll kind of show you, like, these two handicap spaces are not there right now.
Right.
So those are being considered as new spaces.
Okay.
But I will talk to the architect to possibly have two on each side to just allow.
You have two right now next to those two.
Yeah, we have two right now that are kind of here, but they're a little bit further from the facility. So we would want possibly this one and that one, and then across has this one and that one. So we have the shortest route to the front door of the facility.
That's a good suggestion, so that as a follow-up, has been recommended by Ms. Cepeda. And Chair would like to recognize Dr. Ramirez. Go ahead, ma'am.
And if you go to the corner, there's also another ramp up there to go into the chapel. So, and so aside from those, there's a ramp right where those handicap spaces are, and then there's another ramp over here where it says existing concrete sidewalk. There's another ramp there. So ramps, I think we're okay. I do think we need to add the additional 2 parking spaces. The other thing to keep in mind is that this facility currently does not have plumbing. And so that is going to be added to the project. There are no restrooms in there.
Nothing at all.
No. So
It's important.
that was one of the piece of the addition of the building on the back end to add that because that's the piece. Now, I had not seen any of these photographs, so
yeah, these are fairly new and sent to me just recently, these past several days. So the back portion of the facility that you see here is a new section that will replace what's there now. Because the current facility has 2 levels, and because of ADA, we have to be at the same ground level. So being that this section of the building in the back will have all of your plumbing and all of your sinks and things like that will take place. So the architect is recommending that we redo that whole back area of the building, because what's there now is in really bad condition. Plus, we can't pour concrete in there because then the structure would be too low. So his recommendation is just get rid of everything, and we're going to attach a new section to the building. I believe that the back portion of that building is not the original building. It was added at a later date. So we're with the improvements, we're bringing in those plumbing requirements to the facility.
Excellent.
And then, of course, we're doing some screening around some of the transformers and some of the AC units that will be put in place to support the facility as well. Another shot from the northwest corner. And lastly, these are some of the facilities that we have been inspecting and walking and identifying some of the recent leaks that we had during the storms here about a month ago. We identified the MFA rooftop, the flat surface, to be in really bad, poor condition. We have taken core samples of the existing materials. You see some of the expansion on some of the joints of some of the membrane, all of the alligator kind of scaling of the actual material already, and some of the granules that are completely gone and are no longer attached to the actual material. We've identified that the rooftop at the MFA is probably 50% in blister conditions. That means that 50% of the roof is not attached to the facility. So you can walk up there and you're pretty much walking on bubbles, which are blisters. So it's reached its lifespan, and some of the inspections that we've had recently, they indicate that we're at a risk of some of those blisters busting open with the heat in Laredo. That they predict probably the facility won't make it through another year with the Laredo heat before we have numerous leaks inside the building, which will result in damages or further damages that will eventually cost us more money to repair. So we're currently working on a scope and hope to bring a restoration cost for this facility here in the coming weeks. So we'll probably bring it to the board for presentation and approval next month or before then, if we can. Some additional photos in the middle. This is the P24 facility. They currently have a concrete apron sidewalk butting up against the perimeter of the building. And it used to have some type of insulation board that was in between the concrete and the facility, and that with time has just kind of worn out. So what we're having now is we're having water seep into the building, which is going into their basement area, and particular into their IDF room, which was very concerning to us. So I believe we do have a quote for an emergency PO to get these repairs done, and I think that's currently in progress in our office.
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
Mr. Vice, didn't you just oversee the refurbishing of the DPS facility before they moved in, and wasn't this taken into account?
Well, I picked it up. It was a project that I took over. It was already in progress actually when I got it. It was under physical plant project. It wasn't a bond project, but I did foresee or oversee the completion of the improvements, but part of the scope was just pretty much the painting of the exterior walls and soffit and, the work on the interior that got done. The adding of a restroom, a drinking fountain, the painting of the interior, and the redoing, I think, of the wood floor.
The contractor on this was Sertuche, am I correct?
Sartucha Construction, yes. So it was, on his scope, to do what was included on his scope of work, and we got to completion, and then we identified these issues afterwards. We did have plant operations do some improvements in the basement, but it is a very old building, and we do need some additional scope done inside. And that is part of the quote that was submitted, and we're waiting for a PO to be released. But we do include some improvements in the basement as well, to avoid water penetration and just insects and bugs getting into that basement, because there's a lot of holes, everywhere. And it's just the fact that it's a very old building. So we're wanting to do some additional improvements in the basement area.
Mr. Vela, how much did we spend on that renovation? Do you remember? I hate to catch you off guard.
It was over 200,000. That was and again, the funding for the project came from DPS. Originally, when the scope of work was developed, it was in conjunction with DPS and the college. There was a walkthrough of the building. Again, we were working with what DPS was providing for the budget. So there were a lot of things that we valued engineered out. Obviously, this was one of the, again, this item was not discussed of the weatherproofing. I guess at that point, when they did the walkthroughs, they didn't identify that as being an issue.
We do have presence of DPS in
Yes.
our campus, correct?
Oh,
They're
yes.
renting.
Yeah,
They're
paying rent.
renting, yes. But obviously, some of those structures are gonna have to go through some major improvements on repair work, correct?
On this particular building, yes, based on what we identified during the storm, yes, there is need, we have that need to address the basement area. Again, when the original scope was reviewed, DPS had a team come and work with our team. They did walkthroughs and renderings and drawings of what they needed or wanted. And then they develop a budget based on that walkthrough and scope of work. Again, part of this that we're now discovering was not identified as that part as that original during that original scope of work.
But shouldn't have the architect or the contractor known that, since it's an old building?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question, and it should have been identified. Again, we were limited to what DPS was willing to invest. So their focus was a lot on the security of the building, making sure that the access controls to the building were included in the project, the technology that they needed be included in the project. And again, also the functionality being that they had that additional restroom that we had to add to the building. When they did the inspection of the building, they identified that the roof was in good condition. We had replaced it earlier because of a storm. Unfortunately, again, we did suffer some damage in this last storm also on the roof area. But what we did not look into was that basement area. We looked at the functionality of the basement, and we did do some improvements to the basement, but we didn't look at the weatherproofing of that area there. And so that's what right now the major issue in that building is, that basement area, the wall. We have a water seeping in through that area. So we're working on trying to seal the area, but we do have to find a better solution to it.
So the captain in charge, if I may, came to see me the day after storm before last, and they have all of their equipment, all of their technology equipment in that basement, and he was not happy, obviously, because they're paying rent, and the idea was that our responsibility in the MOU was that we were responsible for the exterior facility and they were paying for the interior, and therefore we had to come up with a quick fix, and we did, but this is definitely gonna have to take priority because they are paying rent. We do have a lease with them.
Let me make this observation, on this particular building. The basement is what had a tremendous influence on DPS actually, coming in and renting that facility.
Correct.
Because of the kind of equipment, armament, if I may call it that they have, and the kind of the structure of that basement. There's only one way to get in there, and that is through the inside of that building, which actually provided a tremendous amount of security, particularly the kind of, I guess, weaponry that obviously they were concerned. Let me put it this way, in my opinion, I think Laredo College, particularly this campus, more so than the South Campus, because of the fact that we are right by the river, we're very fortunate that we have the presence of DPS, we have the presence of Border Patrol, in addition to our own police force. And in my opinion, to us, this campus is a plus. And I think we ought to do whatever we can in order to provide the support, the assistance, what needs to be done in order for them to continue being our tenant, if I may call it that, and we ought to do as much as we can in order to come through with their concerns and at the same time make it even better than what it is today.
I don't disagree. I think my angst is that, we have engineers and architects and nobody noticed that there were holes in the ground. And nobody noticed that the water was gonna seep in. How is that possible? And we
That's right.
spend all this money to make it look pretty, but not functional.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's our problem.
Yes,
So
thank you.
So, yeah.
Any other observation from any member of this committee? Go ahead, sir, continue. if you
So
want to.
the temporary fix is being repaired by our plant facilities
yes and yes.
temporarily?
It's
I
already.
mean, for now,
They put in a sealant down there on the walls, but that is temporary
it's just temporary.
Yeah,
until we can get the exterior fixed.
there was a temporary fix, but we do have a purchase order in progress right now to try to address the problem. Like,
Okay.
So we have one current location that is allowing water to get in to a wall. And it happens to be in their IDF room, which is very concerning and we need to take care of it. But we're going past that and we're going to prepare the whole perimeter of that facility to avoid any other leaks in the future and do it the right way now. So we're in the process of doing that.
And the roof, please.
The roof did sustain some damages, but they did have a contractor do some patchwork on the tiles or shingles that were damaged. That has already been repaired already. So moving on, and we'll make sure that gets done here as soon as possible. Moving over down to the bottom, we have all of the wooden P homes on the far corner of the property, on the northwest corner, which has sustained damages probably here in the past 4 years. Now 3 severe storms that have hit those houses. So if you drive around, you see a lot of patchwork done on the asphalt shingles. Some of them have not been repaired yet because they're not occupied or they're abandoned. Like this building here. So what we need to do here is make a quick plan to lay out a scope of work for all of these homes and eventually probably replace the asphalt shingles. There was a recommendation here a year or so ago when they sustained the first damages is to take them back to the original tin roof that they were probably as a roof finish to these facilities. So that's an option of taking them back to a metal tin roof finish, which would get us away from having to replace shingles every time we get hit by a storm. So that is something that we can possibly consider instead of doing the shingles replacement every time we get hit by a storm. Another building that sustained some damages on the far right-hand side. The gentleman that you see on the photograph is stepping into a gutter that is somehow was constructed when the book building was done, the bookstore building was done, and the existing of the Kaizen Center. So you can see in the photograph that the whole entire gutter is filled with leaves. And the drain to this gutter is actually underneath all the leaves.
Oh, shit.
So what happened in the storm was that the gutter filled up with water, seeped into the window seals, and then ultimately came down underneath it and wet all of the ceiling tiles along that entire wall. There is a scope of work put together right now to go ahead and get all this cleaned up and create an overflow drain to allow the water to drain out as an emergency backup if the drain were to ever clog or not have sufficient consumption of stormwater. So the spillover would then spill over the emergency scupper that would be put at the end of this gutter. So this is just a part of maintenance work that we need to kind of keep an eye on and have our personnel stay on top of these things to make sure that the trash and the leaves don't accumulate in these areas and that we allow the storm water to drain properly.
Yeah.
I want to make a note on the surface that he's stepping on the upper white portion is a recent rooftop that we did for the bookstore, which is about 2 years old. And you can see the amount of dirt and debris on top of these buildings. And I think it's probably best in our interest is to get into some type of maintenance program to allow either a contractor to come in and actually clean these surfaces to prolong the life of the roofing material, because all that impacts the lifespan of these rooftops. Mind you, the entire South Campus has this type of material, and I believe that we need to stay on top of it and have it cleaned at least once a year to go ahead and allow the material to reach its lifespan.
Mr. Pice, one thing about it, in reference to these drainage, isn't there a manner in which you can actually also put a cover on the actual drain in order to eliminate all of these leaves or dirt or whatever it is, as you were showing right here on this particular photo. It's full of everything, and that is what prevented. I mean, that's part of the reason why a lot of that damage was done into the inside. But apparently now there's the system where you can actually cover it up and at the same time be able to protect it. Correct?
Yes, correct. We could propose that, and that's a good observation that we go ahead and implement. Is to allow the rain water to go through the screen,
exactly,
keep the leaves out.
There you are.
But we still need to probably stay on top and make sure that the top of the screen is not covered in leaves as well. But we could bring that forward to the contractor to see if we can do something like that
Good.
to help the gutter not
There you are.
get clogged. But certainly the improvements that we're proposing right now will help this situation out. But it's just a bad condition between two buildings coming together, and it's just in big storms, it's a big collector for water. So we're trying to minimize or eliminate all of the conditions that can develop.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
And that concludes my presentation. If you have any other questions on any of the projects at this time.
Do we have any questions from any member? Chair recognizes Ms. Vela.
Your microphone, please.
Just with the gutters, I know at our house, we check them at least once every 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Because they do, I mean, they get, and what happens is if it rains all of a sudden, you're doomed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something that should just.
We just need to know if we're expecting huge amount of rain, that we know that it's coming, like the recent one where we had the tropical storm developing in the Gulf. We need to be proactive and take into account and check our facilities before we get impacted, so make sure we stay on top of everything.
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
Well, no, just to advise that Mr. Chavez is now coming up to give his portion of the presentation.
Oh, wow. Chair recognizes Mr. Chavez. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Building and Committee. Albert Chavez, Associate Vice President for Information Technology. I promise I'll make it quick. I'll just give updates on the 3 bond projects for the Information Technology Department. The first project that I'm going to give an update on is the South Campus Audiovisual Project. The contractor is currently on site from June the 10th to July the 3rd to finish all the work on the South Campus. This is the chart showing all the work. They will be done by July the 3rd. So I do have some pictures of the work. The image on the left, that's the control panel that's installed in the front of every room for the faculty member to turn on the system. On the top left side, that's the lectern computer, and then they have 2 additional HDMI inputs to be able to connect like a laptop. So if a faculty member decides to bring a laptop to teach from, they have the capability to do that.
Mr. Chavez, were they trained on how to use the equipment?
Yes, actually, it doesn't have a picture here, but we actually have very detailed instructions on how to use it. It's not on this picture right here.
Good.
But we could do a training. That's
And a QR code so they can load,
Sure, well, that's doable. The majority of this equipment has been installed for the past year. So that we were just missing 12 classrooms that are being finished right now, and they're touching up the other rooms just to make sure everything is correct. So the image on the right shows you one of the classrooms with the screen turned on. Right there, you can see all the lights are turned on in the room, windows are open, and the screen is very bright. The projector on the top is a Panasonic high definition laser projector. And then on the right, you see a close-up image of the high resolution screen that the projector is projecting on.
and they
So
all
it's very
hide,
bright.
right? All the screens.
All the screens are electronic. They retract when you turn off the system.
Is this also happening at the police academy?
We are working on a different scope of work for the police academy, yes. So one other thing that's happening to protect the equipment, and that's why the company is touching all the other rooms. All these rooms will auto turn off at night. So they are on a timer now. So if somebody forgets to turn off the equipment at 11:30 p.m., the system will shut down. If
Automatically shuts down.
automatically. So we have a timer built in. Because sometimes, and it happens, and I've been a faculty member before, you're in a hurry to go to the next class, so you forget to turn it on. And it stays on for a day or so. So now we built in that safety mechanism. So the equipment, if it's on at 11:30, it will shut down automatically. And the brains of the new system is the box that's on the left that is mounted under the instructor desk. And I know Dr. Rodriguez Tijerina had given us a directive that she did not want to see the old box on the right side, which is the original audiovisual equipment. So this equipment is out of sight, out of mind. So that little box is about the size of the sheet of paper, and it's mounted under the instructor's desk. Compared to the big old box, and of course back then we had a DVD and VHS player, but now you can do that on the computer. And that's the updates for the audiovisual project.
Any
at the
comments,
South Campus.
questions from any member of the committee? Dr. Ramirez?
I do want to just caution and that you work with the police academy folks to make sure that whatever equipment we're going to need, that we order it with time and that we install it with time, so that when the furniture comes in, the equipment's installed and we're not stepping on each other's toes, and then we can't install the equipment because their desks are in the way and then all that.
And I know Mr. Reyla is going to jump in, but we are finalizing the statement of work for the audiovisual, and I believe it's going to be on the agenda for the next board meeting for approval.
Yes, I was just gonna mention.
Any
that-
question? Chair recognizes Mr. Villa.
I was just gonna mention that they are working on the scope for that building or that project. Our goal was to bring it this month, but I think there were a little couple of items that they still hadn't clarified. So we'll have it ready for the July meeting.
Any other comments or questions from a member of the committee? Okay, I'd like to hear a motion for adjournment.
I still got the two.
Oh, he's got
two more. Those just
Oh,
be,
I'm
apologize.
sorry. My
And just
apologies.
as a quick sidebar,
Okay.
we're working with the vendor to schedule, it's not a bond project, but we're gonna be doing upgrades to the Eloy Garcia and Atkins building in late July, early August. So we are working with those departments to schedule the installation of very similar equipment.
Okay.
The fiber optic project at the main and the south campus, it's near its completion. We've been working with the vendor. They're just missing two pieces of the project and the testing of all the fiber. I just included some pictures of the labor that's been done. On the picture on the right side, the man with the shovel, that shows some of the conduits that they actually had to repair that were broken, that I had mentioned in the prior update. So that's some of that work that's being done. And right now, we do have two areas that are on hold due to remodeling, and that's the Arrechiga Hall, and I'll explain in another picture, and then the South Campus Sports Complex. In the Arrechiga Hall, actually, I'll go to the next picture. This box here on the right side is on the way of the porches. So they actually had to pull all the fiber that was installed there. It had not been terminated, so it was easy for them to pull back. So right now they're in the process of pouring that foundation for Rechiga Hall. So the conduits are being built into that foundation. And once that work is completed, right now that work is in process right now. The fiber will be ran back into the building and terminated. And then at the South Campus, we have the same issue with the sports complex due to the automotive technology expansion. The conduit for the fiber was severed during the process of construction, so it's being repaired so we can run the fiber to the sports complex. So those are the two major items that are pending for this project. And again, this is just an image of one of the IDS rooms where they're actually terminating the fiber on the patch panels. The left image is one of the racks in the IDF, and then on the right side you see the actual fiber patch panel. And this is just a quick rundown. So in our campus, the buildings are connected to distribution hubs. One of the distribution hubs is the Martin Building. So through the Martin Building, we have Lair Hall connecting to it, Memorial Hall, the Alpha Lee West, the Ruben Garcia, Lopez Nursing, which I know those buildings have new names now. I apologize for having the old names. The Thermal Storage, which is the central plant, the Eloy Garcia building, and the Maravillo Gym. That's been completed. And again, those buildings connect to the Martin Building. And then the La Garza Building, we have accounting, literacy volunteers, print services, the chapel, purchasing, gamers is P41, it has the old name, payroll, which is P39, the commissary, P24, P25, and P26 also completed. And the Erie Library, we have the Ciarroa building connecting to it, and also Lerma Peña. And then
Excellent.
Arechiga Hall, which is the work that's pending due to construction, so that fiber actually had to be pulled back. And it's actually protected on the side of the building, and it will be brought in as soon as the foundation is poured for the balconies on the south side of the building. Arechiga, oops. No, this is the South Campus. I apologize. The heading at the top should say South Campus. So this is all the work for the South Campus where all the buildings are connecting to the AAC building. Any questions on the fiber optic project? The last
You've done quite a
update,
bit. Congratulations. Excellent.
we're at the end. I mean, the fiber optic project is really close. As soon as we finish the Arechiga Hall and the sports complex, we're gonna be complete.
Both campuses will be complete.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, excellent.
And then the last project is the South Campus CCTV project. We've been in communication with the vendor. Unfortunately, we're still pending two of the radio receipt transceivers for the north parking lot that's in front of the AAC building. The transceiver looks like this antenna that's right here in the corner of Camilo Prada. And I'm just showing some images of what the cameras look like. On the next screenshot, I'm going to show you one of the views that the police department has out of the nursing building. So that's a view of one of the parking lots, and you have the multiple views available at the bottom for that police department is able to see now with the new system. Again, this is just one screenshot of many that they have available to them.
Impressive.
Again, this building is mounted on the nursing building, and as you can tell, it's a very high resolution, and they can actually zoom in, and they can pan, tilt, and zoom the camera as needed. This is another screenshot of the phones in the parking lots. These phones on the north side of the campus are already functional. As you can see from the image, the blue light is on, and they're already online. Some samples of the cameras that are mounted on the left side. That's a camera mounted on the corner of a building. That's actually the camera that was giving you that other view that I showed, the larger view of the parking lot. On the center is a dual lens camera that's pointing towards the entrance. That's on the right side, or your right side or left. And then the other one is pointing towards the other end of the hallway. And then that's a close up on the right side of that camera. On the exterior building. And those were the updates for those three projects.
Awesome.
Any questions?
No, sir.
What? Like here, motion that we stand adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Judge.
sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Good presentation. Very good.